everyone, it's Michelle Caruana from Play Cafe Academy. And before I get started with today's video, which is a really important topic, I'm going to be talking all about birthday party client red flags, what to look out for, when to say no, when to set boundaries, and then I'm going to go through like a laundry list of really specific examples that actually happened to us and kind of go through what happened with them, what I regret, what I did right, what I did wrong. So again, the first half is just going to be super basic to the point, what to look out for, when to say no. And then the second half is going to be more of like a story time. So feel free to click the chapters in the description if you want to listen to only one part, but I highly recommend catching the whole video. But before I get started, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and turn on post notifications. It's the little bell next to the subscribe button so you never miss a video. And if you guys didn't know, I also have a second YouTube channel where I talk more about general marketing stuff and marketing tips and marketing advice. I have been putting out a lot of really fun videos there lately. I just put one out about marketing strategies from Taylor Swift. So be sure to subscribe to that channel as well. The link is in the description. And if you're watching this video and you haven't signed up for my free indoor playground business bundle, the link is also in the description. So while you're watching this introduction, feel free to head to the description and get all of those free resources. All right, so I posed this question in my Playmaker Society group, and I'm just looking at my notes if you see me looking down at my phone. But I kind of said, okay, current owners, what are some birthday client red flags that you look out for? What makes you say no? What makes you even turn down a client? And a lot of them said that they very rarely turn down a client because, something that I teach inside of Play Cafe Academy is really automating your booking process so that you or your staff doesn't have to intervene. People can just go to your website, select a time slot, pay a deposit, and book. But a lot of times I ended up over the 5 years, I ended up either saying no to a party, and this was generally before they actually booked. A lot of those red flags come out before the deposit is paid. And then there are some that I didn't say no to after booking that I should have, which I'm going to go over in this story time. But something that Renee from Ms. On Me Play Cafe brought up, which was a really good point, is to always make sure to direct people to your booking form. Don't take a booking over the phone unless they pay a deposit. But I don't even like to take payment information over the phone. First of all, that is against most cardholder agreements. So we've gotten into trouble several different times when taking payments over the phone. I know a lot of people do it. Restaurants do it, pizza places do it, but people are very unlikely to dispute like a $20 pizza charge, but people are very likely to dispute $100, $200, $300 deposit for a party. And a lot of people have reported our deposits that we've taken over the phone as fraud and won because it's actually not something that you're supposed to do as a storefront is take payment over the phone. Plus, then they're bypassing your user agreement and your party contract and things like that. So something that Renee brought up is number one, make sure to always take a deposit no matter how you're getting the booking. And above and beyond that, I just want to caution you to always just direct them to your booking page. Try not to, it's really tempting to not want to let go of the sale and just take the payment over the phone to lock it in. But I can't stress how important it is to direct them to the page, do everything above board. Don't get yourself in trouble because it will happen to you and it will catch up to you eventually if you're not following the cardholder's rules. But after that, I have 4 tips when to say no and really birthday party client red flags to look out for. And this was again from my own experience and also from all of the amazing owners inside Playmakers Society. All right, so number 1, I always look out for people that wish to pay a different way. So for example, if they want to pay via PayPal or if they want to write a check for a deposit, we have gotten burned so many times on checks for deposit. So we'll reserve their date and then weeks later we'll find out that their check bounced. And by the time we find out that their check bounced, they don't have their deposit locked in. I pretty much haven't been able to contact them after that check bounced. They never came in for their party. It was a fraudulent check. What happened was they probably planned on paying for their party via check that was going to bounce as well. I mean, there are plenty of instances where checks can bounce by accident and it's very, very innocent. We have never had that experience, honestly. Every single time somebody has requested to pay a deposit by check, we just say, okay, you can pay by check, but your date is not reserved until the check absolutely clears. So that's something that I would recommend is if you're allowing check, don't allow your deposit to lock in until the check clears. And never, ever, ever take a party balance via check, because let's say you have a party that you host and they do the remainder of the payment at the end of the party, or even a few days before the party, which is really, really common. You host the party, you provide all this food, you have labor, and then 2 weeks later, you find out that their check bounced. That is a nightmare situation, and it has happened to us. So it's okay to take check for a deposit. It is never okay, never advised to take a check before for the actual balance of the party, excuse me, even if it's a few days before, because generally it takes quite a bit of time to find out that a check has bounced. And when people want to pay via PayPal or pay via like wire transfer, a lot of times what I found when people want to pay with PayPal, it's because PayPal has a very user-friendly agreement, meaning that if they dispute the charge, PayPal is almost 100% of times going to side with the consumer. Whereas if they were to dispute a charge as fraud with their credit card, we have really strong evidence to back up the fact that it was a true transaction, that we actually did host a party, that they actually did book a deposit. But with PayPal, their user agreement is a little bit different, and it is not favorable to businesses at all, even if you have a business account. So anytime someone isn't willing to pay with a credit card or a check and wait for it to clear to hold the date, that is a huge red flag to me. And it's generally somebody trying to take advantage of you. Again, I don't like to make blanket statements, but every single time that we have allowed somebody to pay a different way, we have gotten burned. The one exception is sometimes people want to pay for their full balance of the party, and our system just isn't set up to take those very specific amounts, because basically every party, depending on add-ons, depending on um, all that very unique stuff for every single party, a lot of times our system is only set up to take deposits, and sometimes people want to pay the full amount upfront just to get it out of the way. In that case, I will send a QuickBooks invoice and allow them to pay via credit card that way. But we do not allow PayPal. We do not allow checks for pay in full, anything like that. But that is the one exception. If people want to pay in full, I do allow them to do that via PayPal, or excuse me, via QuickBooks invoice, in which case they can pay the full amount via a credit card. And then you don't have to mess around with your point of sale system and create a new item and things like that. So number one flag, people that wish to pay a different way or over the phone. Do not take payment over the phone ever, ever, ever. If I could give one piece of advice to my former self, I would tell them that. I mean, that's probably dramatic. I would tell myself a lot of different things. But that's one of the biggest things is you will get burned if you take payment over the phone. Number two, red flag, is people who want to bend the rules. And this was kind of something every single owner inside of Playmaker Society said. They said if they have too many requests, if they have too many needs for accommodation, so they want to set up the tables a different way. They want to bring a U-Haul with decorations, which is absolutely something that happens. They want to change the time. They want to flex on how many adults can be there, how many kids can be there. They are basically expecting you to bend over backwards for them. Now, when we first opened, we really prided ourselves on being super flexible and super open and allowing people to make all of these special requests. And it just caused so much of a headache for us that we just had to learn that, okay, this is our package. This is what it comes with. If you want to change it, this is our add-on list, but we don't flex the time unless you're paying for additional time. These are our policies. You cannot tape things on the wall. You cannot nail things to the wall. Wait till you get to my story time, because I've had some crazy requests. But basically, if people aren't booking until you're answering 1,000 questions, or until you're saying that you will allow these 1,000 different requests, if that happens before the booking even happens, direct them elsewhere, because it will only continue and it will only get worse, and it will only worsen after they book, I promise you. So that is a huge red flag. And honestly, I just say, you know what? Our policies are our policies. Our packages are our packages. If they don't fit what you're looking for, then I'm so sorry, we can't accommodate you, and maybe direct them elsewhere. That's one of the good things about having a lot of party places near you, is you can always have somebody to kind of direct people to who you don't necessarily want to work with. That sounds terrible, but it's true. But too many questions, things like that, is a huge, huge red flag, because again, it's just going to get worse. Trust me. Number three is people who ask to price match. So a lot of times people will call us and say, hey, I noticed that your party package is really similar to this party package at another facility. Would you be willing to go down to their price? Or I saw this facility offers this. Would you be willing to do that? I say, you know what? Our prices and our packages are made up based off of our business and what we need to make in order to stay in business and, feed our families. Our prices are not determined based on our competitors. And that's that's a big mistake a lot of indoor playground owners make, is coming up with their prices just based on competition. So when people kind of are pointing to other facilities and saying, well, they do this and they do this, why can't you do that? Why can't you be this cheap? I kind of say, well, it sounds like that facility is going to be a much better fit for you. These are our prices. They are set. We do not discount for, like, for example, a lot of times people would say, oh, I see that your package allows up to 20 people, but we're only going to have 10. Can we have a discount? I say, you know what? It costs us basically the same amount to accommodate 10 people as it does 20 because our food is set. I would recommend inviting more people if you would like to make the most out of your money or something like that. But anytime people ask for those little discounts or those little discounts based off of the most ridiculous things. I had a customer once, and I swear she's going to haunt me, my conscience, for the rest of my life. It was actually like a friend of a friend, so I felt absolutely terrible. But she literally came to me after the party, and she's one of those clients where I wish I would have said no in the beginning, because she's one of those people that asked a million questions before she even booked. She tried to price match me. She tried to nitpick all of the little package details. She actually, after the party was over, she counted how many plates were left over. She counted how many napkins were left over. She counted that they left with 3 minutes remaining. And she actually tried to get me to refund her based off of that, because she didn't use everything that was allotted to her. And I was like, you know what? Just take the plates and the napkins and go home. Like, it was such a nightmare. And I know I said I wouldn't get into story times here, but I'm just trying to warn you that when you see this red flag before somebody books, just say no. Just say other facilities that you're referring to are going to be a better fit, and move on. You do not want to deal with those people, because they're not going to be a good fit. If they're not respecting your business decisions, if they're not respecting your prices, they're not going to respect you. They're not going to respect your staff, and they're not going to respect your facility. And it's going to be a nightmare all around. And then that kind of brings me to my fourth red flag. So anyone who treats staff rudely, this is a huge red flag. If during the booking process, they're making a request that my staff is saying, no, we cannot accommodate this. So I want to have a party during open play hours, which again goes to bending the policies. I want to set up the furniture different. I want to do a theme that's not included. I think this should be included at no extra cost. Anytime somebody is making those requests to either myself or a staff member, but is being very rude about it or being very pushy, we just allow that customer to move on and say, you know what, it doesn't seem like our packages are a good fit, and we move on. I do not tolerate anybody speaking rudely or swearing. I've had tons of people swear and essentially verbally harass my staff. And to me, I just don't want that energy in my facility. I will not subject my staff to that. A lot of them are high schoolers, they're minors, or even very young college students that are just over the age of 18. I am not going to allow grown women to speak to my staff like that. And in turn, my staff was very thankful of that. They appreciated the fact that I stood up for them and empowered them to say, you know what, it doesn't seem like we're going to be a good fit for you. Why don't you choose another facility? And they know that I will never be mad at them for that, because it's one of those things, like I said before, it only gets worse over time. If somebody is rude during the booking process, just think of how they're going to be on the actual party day, when they're stressed, when they're in front of their family and friends, when they have a million different things going on, when they actually have to take out their credit card to pay. First of all, they're not going to tip, and our staff is going to be a little upset and disgruntled. And second of all, they're definitely not going to be pleasant the day of the party. They're going to pull out a million new requests and a million new demands. And it's just not something that I am willing to subject my staff to. So again, I just want to go over the 4 red flags that will literally make me say no to a party booking, even though our number one priority at our indoor playground facility was always filling up our birthday booking calendar. And again, these were inspired not only from my own experience, but also the amazing owners inside Playmaker Society. So number 1, if people want to pay a different way. Number 2, if people want to bend your rules or policies and don't seem to respect them. Number three, people that don't respect your prices or the structure of your packages. And then four, people that don't respect your facility, your staff, or you. And honestly, that fourth point also goes to problem customers. So if you have customers that have been asked to leave or have just shown no respect for your facility, then I would also just kind of ask them to move along and maybe allow them some suggestions of places that might be a better fit. All right, so those are the 4 red flags. And now I kind of just want to go through this random list. I literally have had this list growing since 2016. So I'm going to try to go through it as quickly as possible. But these are all absolutely real scenarios that we've been requested to do at a birthday party. All right, so number one, somebody literally asked me if we could move all the furniture out and put it into storage so that they could rent different tables and they literally wanted our couches to be gone. And we said, absolutely not. And of course, they didn't want to pay any extra for this because they were already going to pay for the newly rented furniture. I said, absolutely not. Even if you were to rent a storage unit, even if you were to move it yourself, even if you were to rent a U-Haul to do it, there is absolutely no way, because then we would have to get it back for the next party. And it was just, that was a huge red flag. I should have known. I still had that party and it was one of the worst ones we have ever had to this day. But they wanted to move all our furniture out. And they did ask that before they booked. And I wish I would have taken that as a red flag. Number two, and this was the same person actually. They wanted our party hosts to dress up as white gloved caterers. So they wanted them to wear like a uniform with like a little suit and a tie with white gloves. And we just said, our team has uniforms. We think they're fine. They match our vibe. They match our facility. If you're looking for something a little bit more formal, then maybe you should go to a restaurant or something like that, or a banquet hall. Maybe look for how those staff dress. And if it fits the vibe that you're looking for, then maybe book at their facility. But again, we still hosted that party. Of course, we didn't dress up as white glove caterers, but that was a specific request that was made. I'm getting like PTSD flashbacks from this particular person. We asked to have, this was the same person again. All 3 of these first things were from the same person. They asked to have open flamed catering trays along our play area counter. So if you guys are familiar with our space, I'll put a picture up if you're not. We have a 3-foot wall dividing our cafe and our play area. And because they went so decadent in terms of the type of food that they offered, they had like 50 different options. There just wasn't enough room on our counter. So they wanted to put their catering trays all along between the cafe and the play area wall, the 3-foot wall that divides them, which is literally child height. And these would have had flames under the trays, the ones that like are the keep warm trays. And I said, absolutely not. Not only do we not allow flamed trays at all, because our facility doesn't allow it, our insurance doesn't allow it. We are not a banquet hall, but that just sounds like the worst recipe for disaster. Not only would the trays be extremely likely to fall over the wall, but that is a huge fire hazard. Not only do we not want food all over the play area, we certainly don't want to set our place on fire. But yes, that was a real request, and it was somebody who was very familiar with our space. So it was a first birthday party. So maybe they just didn't know how rambunctious older children could be. Maybe they thought, it's high enough for them, but no, absolutely not. And honestly, adults sometimes are the clumsier guests of the party. It would be an adult guest, very likely, that would knock that over and start a fire. Okay, this is one that I've already gone over in my horror stories video. So I think I talked about the 4 worst things to ever happen in our play facility. This was the one where I'm referring to the balloon disaster. We called it like Balloon Gate for the longest time. And this party asked to have 12 full hours in our facility uninterrupted to set up balloons. And I said, absolutely not. It was a Saturday party, and we not only were we open for open play before the party, but we also had a party after. So I was like, no way am I going to allow you to close our open play. Our Saturday open play was super popular, and I did not want to disappoint our members or our regular open play customers. But there's no way you're going to be able to get 12 hours worth of balloon setup out of our facility by the time our next party has to start. And spoiler alert, they ended up just bringing in these arches that were like already made. And I'll put a picture up, but if you want the full story, it's in my horror story video. But it was insane. And the craziest part is this person was actually the person who set the balloons up, was pretending to be a company that he actually didn't have any association with. So essentially what happened is after the party, he just took a pin to all the balloons, and there were thousands. And a lot of them were filled with water and sand. So there was sand and water all over our play area, and they just left the mess. They did not take anything with them. We had to cancel the next party. I think we even had to cancel parties the next day. It was horrible. So anytime you get these elaborate setup requests, make sure not only do you say no, because we did say no, but make sure you say, okay, if you're bringing in balloons, take everything with you, and you have to be out by this specified time because there is going to be an event after you. So that was horrible. This was the person that I was referring to who was counting the plates and napkins, but she said, "Can I give you a discount if I give you coupons I have at home for food and party supplies?" No. We already have deals worked out where we get a discount. We're paying you full price because we are the ones that develop these partnerships. We need to make a profit to stay in business. She could absolutely not believe why we would be charging her more than she could provide on her own. And eventually I should have just said, have the party at your house then. If you want to just pay the list price for everything, and you don't want to pay, she could not understand why we charged like a rental fee at all. She was like, well, you're only needing to pay for food and labor and party supplies. Why can't I just pay you whatever that costs? And I said, well, we also need a 60% profit margin on all of our parties, or else we're going to go out of business. She just could absolutely not wrap her head around that. And she kept trying to email me every single time something came up. She would try to email me a coupon for it and then get that back. And I just said, just save the coupons, please. And this person I know to be very well off because, again, it was a friend of a friend. And I've seen her house. I've seen the car she drives. I know where she works. I can pretty much guesstimate what she and her spouse makes. So of course I'm not, trying to assume what they can afford, but this wasn't somebody who needed to save $2 on pizza. I'll just say that. Um, somebody asked me if I could make them a Pinterest board for them to approve on the theme. And we basically set up each theme very similarly. So if there was a dinosaur party on the 10th and there was a dinosaur party on the 19th, they were very, very similar. But she wanted everything to be bought fresh, and she wanted me to create this Pinterest board for her to approve for her like mood board. And I said, if you have a Pinterest board, you're welcome to send it to me and I can accommodate the colors as best I can. But she was kind of wanting us to be like a full scale event planner, like almost like a wedding planner. And that's just not something that we could accommodate at the time. While I love Pinterest and I used to be a wedding planner, it was just another red flag that there was going to be more issues to come. Yes, I could have made a Pinterest board for her, but again, if you indulge one of these types of requests, then you're just establishing a boundary that it's okay. And if you give them an inch, they are going to take a mile. And this sounds really negative, but again, it's a very specific type of person. This is luckily for every 100 parties, we only had like one or two problem clients. So they're far and few between, but honestly, those one or two bad apples can leave a really bad taste in your mouth and like literally give you a lot of stress and anxiety for years and years to come. So you have to be really careful about who not only you trust your space with, but also who you trust your creativity and your mental health with, because it is very taxing as a business owner. Um, this is the reality TV show. She asked if we could have all of our staff sign a non-disclosure agreement. And this I actually said yes to, honestly, because I just thought it would be really cool to be on reality TV. If you guys want to watch that story, it's also on my YouTube channel. The link is in the description. But we were on Love After Lockup, season finale. It was a whole thing. But that was a weird request. I've never gotten that before, but we did end up signing it. And I was there for the party in case anything crazy happened. There was security, there was all sorts of stuff, but that was kind of weird that I had to have all of our staff sign non-disclosures, but I did it, honestly, and no regrets. Well, there are regrets if you watch that video, plenty of regrets, but just overall signing it, I don't regret it. Somebody asked if they could do a food tasting. Ma'am, we serve pizza and wings and veggies. No, you may not do a food tasting. If you would like to do a food tasting, I'll provide you with the company that we get our pizza and vegetables from, and you're welcome to take a sampling. You're welcome to order pizza next Friday and let me know if you like the pizza. If you don't like it, then book our basic package where we don't provide any food and bring in your own food. That was weird. No, that was a hard no. This actually happened. So somebody asked after they already booked, after they were already there, the mom kind of came to me and said, okay, the kids are playing, the kids are happy, the kids are in the play area. Can all the adults go to the bar next door? So as you guys know, we shared a wall with a restaurant. So in the same plaza. And she said, do you guys mind watching the kids while all the adults go to the bar and drink? And we said, no, ma'am, no. So what they did was there was always a couple adults present, but adults would like sneak out pretending to like go have a smoke break, and they would go to the bar next door, get a drink, and then some of them would even try to bring it back. And it was the most ridiculous thing ever. So it was a constant shuffle in and out, in and out. People were bringing in drinks. People were shoveling drinks at the bar next door and then coming back. And it was just a disaster. There were really no red flags to tell me about this situation beforehand, but I wish I would have been a little bit more strict about how they were handling that situation, especially the people that were trying to bring the drinks back. But it just baffled my mind that she asked if all the adults could go next door and drink. And then they ended up taking all the kids there after and continuing to drink, which was a little troubling, but nobody seemed overly intoxicated. So, I mean, to each their own, I guess. It never escalated to the need to call authorities. This was what I alluded to before. Somebody asked to bring a U-Haul for party decor. And this was ironically the same person who asked me if they could give me coupons for the pizza and things like that. She had thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars of decorations. She paid to rent a U-Haul. She set up she came like over an hour before I specifically told her she could come to set up. I must have called her 3 or 4 times, emailed her because I knew she was going to come early. I said, we will have the doors locked until this time. She still showed up an hour early, and we just sat there with the doors locked eating lunch because my staff is entitled to a break. We are entitled to uphold the terms of our contract, and we did not let her in 1 second early. So she didn't get everything set up. She probably let several hundred or maybe even $1,000 worth of decorations go to waste because they couldn't get them set up. But you know what? Again, if you give them an inch, they'll take a mile. And her party went way over. I ended up sending her an invoice for a lot of extra charges, which was funny because she tried to get me to refund her off a couple plates. But anyways, whatever. 2 more left and then I swear I'm done. But I just had to get these off my chest because again, I've been building this note for like 5 years. Somebody asked if they could extend the party by 6 hours. Absolutely not. That sounds like a nightmare. I do not want the same kids to be forced to play in our facility and the same adults to be in our facility for the same 6 hours. It's just, and they didn't really want to pay for it either. But honestly, even if they were willing to pay for it, the kids would be overstimulated. They would be bored. They would start breaking rules. They would start not respecting our space because kids are kids, right? They can't be, and these were like toddlers that still napped. I don't understand the logistics of what they were expecting. But it just didn't feel right. And I'm glad that we didn't allow that. And I know some cultures are very used to very long parties. And that's what this person was kind of trying to explain to me. But I just kind of explained to her that it just wasn't really conducive with our setup or our space. And I just suggested that she have the family at home. Or have the party at home. So what she ended up doing is she ended up extending the party by an hour, which is the maximum that we allow based off of experience. And then they just went to her house after, and I think they had a great time. So again, I'm glad that I said no, because honestly, after 3 hours, the kids were absolutely done. So I don't regret that at all. And then the worst one, which is our most common one, which we get asked all the time, is can I have my party during normal business hours? This would typically be a Saturday morning. We always said no. And again, this came up a lot in the Playmaker Society group. These people that want to bend the hours and have these parties during open play hours, for us at least, we focused on premier higher ticket parties. I could just tell when somebody asked that they just weren't our ideal customer. Again, if I gave into that one request, they would have a million other requests. And Birthday parties during open hours are just never a good idea because they move furniture, they bring presents, they bring food and dessert. And I don't know if you've ever had a bunch of toddlers or really small children in a space with presents and cake in really close proximity with really no division between the regular customers and the party customers. Try telling a 3-year old that sees a cupcake or that sees cake or presents that, oh, I see that they're having a party, but even though there's no division of space, even though they're not in a separate room, even though there's really no visual representation to show you, like, okay, this is my space, this is their space, try telling them that they can't have a cupcake or that those presents, aren't going to be opened in front of them or something like that. It was very difficult. It caused so much turmoil. It caused, because we did allow a couple of these when we very first opened, and I would never recommend it because it's just very distracting. Open play customers get very irritated when there's furniture moved together and they don't have any seating. And it's just very distracting. They're generally very loud. They're generally the parties that are happening during open play. They're very distracting. Now, if you have a party room, then this is probably doesn't apply to you. Then go for it. Have a party during open play hours if your play area is large enough. But if you don't have a separate space for the party, your open play customers are going to complain. Nobody at the party is going to have a good time because they're going to be constantly having to battle for space with open play customers. So it's just going to be a lose, lose, lose all around. So I would never, ever recommend doing that. This was probably something that we were most strict about. We did not allow people to bring any cake during open play hours because people, even if they didn't ask, a lot of times people would just walk into our doors with a birthday cake or with presents and say, oh, we're just having a little birthday play date. We would stop them at the door and say, it is very clear on our website, we do not allow parties during open play hours. This is a party. And even if they only had 3 or 4 people, we said no desserts. No, we didn't even allow outside food at the time. So we said no outside food, especially not desserts or cake. And we just didn't allow presents. We said, you're welcome to have a birthday play date, but please open your presents either in the car or at home. It's just very distracting to our other open play customers. And once we did that, our open play customers and our members especially were so thankful. And I can't tell you how many compliments we got because we got nothing but complaints when people were allowed to have these little makeshift mini birthday parties during open play hours. So I hope you guys learn from my mistakes. Make sure you look out for these red flags when booking birthday party customers. But honestly, generally, just trust your gut. If it doesn't feel right, if it feels like the person isn't going to respect you or your staff or your space, say no and move on. By saying no and allowing them to move on, you're just making space for a customer that's a better fit, a more ideal customer for your facility. And my ideal customer isn't necessarily your ideal customer. So you kind of have to look at, okay, what am I offering in terms of parties? Am I a more discount offering? Am I a more premier offering? Who is my ideal customer? And if someone you feel doesn't fit into that general area, then just allow them to move on. It's going to cause you so much less stress and anxiety, and it's going to make your business and staff and yourself better for it. All right, I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe. I am going to be putting out a new video every single week, as always. Don't forget to check out my other YouTube channel, which is also linked below. And I hope you enjoyed this. If you have anything to add, I would love to hear what it is in the comments. Have a great day.